My name is Eleanor. I'm 82 now, living quietly in my little house filled with ghosts and memories. Most days are calm, a gentle routine of tea and old books. But last Tuesday, the past arrived uninvited, not with a whisper, but a stark, white envelope. It was from a lawyer in California, mentioning a family reunion. My heart, old and fragile, skipped a beat. Family, a word heavy with unspoken things. It spoke of a person I haven't seen in over 50 years, a person connected to a secret I've buried so deep, I sometimes forget it's there. This letter wasn't just an invitation. It was a key turning in a lock I thought was rusted shut forever, hinting at a confrontation I never believed I'd face. One involving a child I lost, or perhaps gave away. The tension in the air is thick, promising more than just old photographs and awkward smiles. If you enjoy stories like this one, comment, "I want more." Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. The letter lay on the table, a stark reminder of a path I'd deliberately avoided for decades. To go, or not to go? That was the cruel dilemma tearing at my fragile peace. It wasn't just about seeing distant relatives. It was about him, the boy, the man he must be now. Facing him meant unearthing truths I'd spent a lifetime burying under, layers of silence and denial. It meant confronting the decision I made when I was barely more than a girl myself, a choice born of desperation and circumstance, but one that had shaped every single day since. My heart ached with a confusing mix of longing and dread. Was I strong enough to see the life that grew from my absence? Could I bear the weight of his potential questions, his possible resentment? The conflicting emotions raged within me. The deep, primal pull of motherhood I'd suppressed, and the icy fear of shattering the quiet existence I'd built. Despite my fear, a flicker of defiance ignited. I picked up the letter again, intending to compose a polite refusal. But my eyes caught a name I'd glossed over before. Not his, but hers. Mary Beth Wilkinson. My cousin, twice removed, who I hadn't spoken to since it happened. The letter wasn't from the lawyer representing him, but representing her side of the family. And the twist? It wasn't a simple invitation to reconnect with a long-lost son. It coldly stated that recent family history research had uncovered discrepancies regarding my son's parentage, suggesting the man I'd always believed was his father wasn't. My blood ran cold, then boiled. My reaction wasn't the expected wave of grief, but a surge of white-hot fury. Decades of carefully constructed truth felt like they were crumbling, but not in the way I'd ever imagined. This wasn't just about motherhood anymore. It was about deceit, woven deep into the family tapestry. The initial shock gave way to a churning turmoil inside me. Not the father I'd mourned in silence for half a century. It felt like the ground had vanished beneath my feet. The letter, now crumpled in my trembling hand, felt like an accusation. My fury hadn't subsided. It had just found a new target, not just the lie, but the people who perpetuated it. I called the lawyer's number on the letterhead, demanding clarification. The conversation was cold, formal. They represented the Wilkinson family, who, based on newly uncovered evidence, disputed the historical narrative surrounding my son's birth. Their condition for any potential contact or future discussion was my absolute discretion and acceptance of their findings. It wasn't an offer of reconciliation. It felt like a legal threat designed to control the truth. The path to finding my son, already fraught with emotional peril, was now blocked by a wall of legal and familial hostility, making everything infinitely more complicated and painful. This wasn't just about my son anymore. It was about a tangled history, a web of silence and manipulation spun across generations. I spent days poring over old photo albums, trying to find faces, clues, remembering fragmented conversations from long ago, whispers I'd dismissed as gossip. The complexity of the relationships between my family and the Wilkinsons became frighteningly clear. Rivalries, dependencies, a shared history I'd never fully understood. My search for answers about my son, about his true father, felt like navigating a maze designed to keep me lost. The lawyer's cold warning echoed in my ears, an external wall. Internally, my own memories, once sharp, felt frustratingly hazy on the details that mattered most. Doubt began to creep in. Could I trust anything I remembered? Was pursuing this truth worth the risk of upsetting my few remaining family connections, or potentially causing pain to the son I hoped to find? The weight of uncertainty became unbearable. Sitting here, waiting, was no longer an option. My life was nearing its end, and this lingering question, this aching void, needed an answer. I decided I wouldn't play by the Wilkinsons' rules. They wanted control. I wanted truth. With trembling hands, I found an old address book. There was a name there I hadn't thought of in decades: Arthur Jenkins. He was the only person, besides the supposed father, who knew about my situation back then. It was a risk, a leap into the unknown. I dialed the number listed, my heart pounding. He answered, his voice older but recognizable. After a hesitant reintroduction, I spoke the words I'd held inside for 50 years. His response was a long silence, then a sigh. "Eleanor," he said softly, "there's something you need to know about that time. Something they made us promise never to tell you. It wasn't just the father they kept secret. It was why." Arthur's words tumbled out, a confession 50 years overdue. The why was a cruel twist of fate and familial ambition. The man I believed was the father was indeed involved, but the Wilkinson family, fearing scandal and the disruption of a planned inheritance tied to a pure lineage, had orchestrated a cover-up. They'd paid people, manipulated circumstances, and pressured key individuals, including Arthur, into silence. My son had been taken, not just given away, under false pretenses and legal trickery. I was too young and vulnerable to fight. The revelation hit me like a physical blow, replacing fury with a deep, cold ache. The very foundation of my sorrow had been a lie. Almost immediately after my call with Arthur, the lawyer from the Wilkinson family called back, their tone now sharp and menacing. My inquiries had not gone unnoticed. The tension in the air was no longer a quiet hum. It was a roaring storm, threatening to tear apart the fragile remnants of my life and legacy. Armed with Arthur's truth, I knew there was only one path left. I instructed my own lawyer to contact the Wilkinson family, not with demands, but with the full documented story. The storm broke. Accusations flew, denials were issued, but the truth, once spoken aloud after 50 years, held its ground. The family reunion wasn't where we met. It happened weeks later, in a neutral place, just him and me. He was a man now, with his mother's eyes and a stranger's face, telling him everything, the taking, the lies, the true father's identity, which Arthur also confirmed, was the hardest and most freeing thing I've ever done. There were tears, yes, and anger, but also a quiet understanding. We couldn't reclaim the lost years, the missed moments of motherhood and sonhood. But in that room, the secrets that had defined my life and his were finally laid bare. There was no perfect ending, no magical undoing of the past, only the fragile beginning of knowing. And for an old woman at the end of her journey, knowing was, finally, enough. The dust has settled now. My little house feels quieter somehow, perhaps because the loudest ghost, the secret of my son's true story and his missing presence, has finally been confronted and acknowledged. The reunion itself was no fairy tale. How could it ever be after so many long decades of enforced absence? Decades of loss and silence leave scars that cannot be simply wished away by a single meeting. But there was a fragile thread woven between us in that quiet room, a shared history tentatively reclaimed from the deep shadows of the past. I look at his photograph now, not with the agonizing ache of the unknown, but with the quiet sorrow of what was irreparably lost, and the faint, trembling hope of what little time might remain for us to connect. The truth, when it finally emerged, from the layers of deceit, wasn't clean or easy to absorb, but it was unequivocally mine. And now, it is rightfully his too. The Wilkinson name still holds sway in some circles, their calculated lies echoing faintly, but their manipulative power over my narrative and my truth is gone forever. This unexpected journey, embarked upon in fear and finished in a weary, hard-won peace, taught me that family is not just about shared bloodlines, but about the profound willingness to face the light of reality together, no matter how painful, the shadows it reveals from the deepest corners of the past. My story is long, marked by painful silence, but it ends now, finally, in the quiet grace of a quiet, fragile acceptance.